my name's Jordan McGarry. I'm the Director of Curation at Vimeo. Vimeo is based in New York, and I am one of the few people who work out of the UK, so I'm based in London. I've been there for 4.5 years, which is quite a long time in Vimeo terms. And yeah, I'm just going to talk you through some of the stuff that we've been up to. I was asked to talk about what works online, like in terms of short form, and what the internet likes. And the truth is, the internet likes all the obvious stuff. Sorry, on the wall gets going. There we go. So the internet's full of all sorts of stuff, and lots of it is, amusing and fun in its own way. But Vimeo is a bit different. That's our mission statement. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can have a look yourself. We're much more about promoting and supporting creators than advertisers. So we're not super bothered about having the sort of huge viral music videos. You're less likely to see Rihanna and sort of cats on skateboards and that kind of thing. But we're really, really invested into supporting filmmakers who want to build their careers or share their work at whatever level. We have people who launch short films that then go on to become, get developed as features, or web series that get picked up and eventually end up on HBO. We have, we did a count, and 70% of the short form nominees in the Academy Awards are on Vimeo over the last 3 years. And yeah, so we have a sort of different thing about what works. And before I go too further, I should explain what Director of Curation means and what the curation team does. There's 4 of us full-time, 3 in New York and me in London. That's me. It's an unfortunate picture, but it's a picture I've always used and I can't be bothered to change it. Doug, Ian and Jeffrey, and we spend a lot of time watching videos. The site obviously has tons of people uploading every day, and we try and stay on top of as much of it as we can. Obviously, we don't watch everything. We have various ways to find good stuff. We follow lots of creators. Everyone who's ever been staff picked before gets an email address that they can send their new work to. We follow people that we think are interesting and watch the things that they're liking. We follow lots of channels on the site. Anybody who's curating a good channel that's not staff, we're probably aware of it, and we're following that. And we hang out at festivals. We talk to people all the time, and people send us stuff. We get lots of emails and lots of messages through the Vimeo system. And when you watch that much stuff, the good stuff kind of leaps out at you. So the Staff Picks channel has been going since 2008, and this is where we sort of showcase and celebrate the work that we really love. And there's no real checkbox. It's not like, oh, you did this and that, and it's got this in it, so therefore it will be a staff pick. It's much more just if we really love it, like if you watch something, and it might be, obviously a lot of it is really high production values and great craft, and that is important, but it's not everything. Sometimes people shoot something in a very simple way, but it's an amazing story that just makes you feel something, whether it's funny or moving or whatever. We're just as excited about sharing that stuff in the channel too. And recently, in fact last month, we reached a milestone, which was this video went into the channel on January the 7th, and it was the 10,000th video that we put in Staff Picks. So the archive is pretty big. It's like up to 5 videos a day, and when you deal with that kind of volume and you can look back at the data across all of those videos, obviously you can start to see stuff that's useful. You can start to see trends. You can start to see the evolution of not just the online industry, but what's happening and how the online industry is influencing other industries, and the creators who've come out of that and where they are now, and even what might be coming next. So just sorry, I know this screen's not very big, but this is more just to help me remember what to talk about. This is the top 10 videos ranked by plays from Staff Picks from the last 12 months, just to give you an idea of the kind of stuff that's in the channel and the kind of stuff that makes us different from some of those other video sharing platforms. So the first one, Denali, this is a really moving sort of, it makes people quite emotional. So a short documentary about a man and his dog, and I think it's 12 minutes long. It's quite long. That's number 1 in 2015. And then we have this is more of a sort of visual thing. It's just an amazing 3D printed sculpture thing that when you flash a strobe at it and spin it, it animates. And that's much shorter. It's just a visual thing that is extraordinary and people really loved sharing. And then again, in the top right, there's the Fallen of World War of World War II, which is 18 minutes long, but it went super crazy viral just because it's incredibly compelling, really extraordinary information, and sort of it's uplifting and it hits you in the sort of guts at the same time. If you haven't seen that, it's one of my favourites from last year. And then The Revenant, which I'll talk about in a moment. So you just get a bit of an idea that, firstly, everything that they say about, things that are too long don't work on the internet isn't true. If you're careful about how you launch your film and you pay attention to some of the details that I'll go into later, the sky's the limit. So some of the other stuff that we've been up to that's worth talking about are Vimeo Originals, and this was the first one. I don't know if has anyone heard of High Maintenance or watched it? A couple of you, okay. So High Maintenance is kind of it's like a textbook Vimeo story. It was a web series that we were aware of and featured several of their several episodes from their first series in staff picks over a few years, and they were interested. They were sort of being courted by TV people, but all of the TV conversations they were having were people wanted to sort of get involved, and it's about a drug dealer, and each episode is he goes to a different customer's house. And it's brilliant sort of slice of life. It's very low-key. They just made it with their friends, shooting in apartments. But it was brilliantly, brilliantly told. And none of the conversations that they were having with TV people felt right. They didn't feel like they could necessarily work with anyone. And we were exploring the idea of Vimeo Originals. It was kind of a bit earlier than we anticipated, but we were like, okay, we can't resist. We'll help you. And we funded it for their second series. And it launched on Vimeo On Demand, which is our paid platform. Just for those of you who don't know, there's another side of Vimeo where you can upload your work and charge for it, put it behind a paywall. You can make all the decisions about where it's available and all that kind of stuff, and you take 90% of the revenue. So all of the originals that we're doing, everything that we do and we fund, lives on Vimeo On Demand. And it went really, really well. The second series launched in 2014 at the end of the year, and has gone so well that their third series was picked up by HBO. And while we're sorry that they've left the platform, we're still great friends with them. And obviously it's a brilliant story for us because we're just super thrilled for them that they're able to go on. And that's kind of their dream. That was their dream partner for the series in the very beginning. So so that's High Maintenance. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And then there's The Outs, which it's not out yet, but there's another wave of Vimeo Originals. We had a stand-up special, came out at the end of last year. We had a short film called Darby Forever, which launched last week, which I'll also urge you to check out. It's part of a new initiative that we have called Share the Screen, which is about trying to do something about the balance of male and female creators and trying to support female creators. We're going to be commissioning or supporting 5 projects from women this year. They don't have to be directors. They could be writers or they could be producers or like whatever, so long as the sort of female voice is leading the project. But The Outs is coming soon. I don't have the date for it yet, but it's another series that kind of follows a similar story as High Maintenance. It was on Vimeo for its first season, and it's built a huge audience. It's got, I think, their average view count for season 1 is in the 6 figures generally. And they've been on hiatus. They've sort of had a break. They've all been doing other things, and they're coming back together to make season 2, which will be out on Vimeo this year. Very exciting. And then the Leviathan is one of the ones from the top 10 of last year. This is a short film that's kind of a proof of concept teaser for a feature project that the director, Rory Robinson, who's an Irish guy, wanted to make. And I think this is one of the really interesting things that we're seeing a lot of at the moment, and I don't think it's going away. I think we're going to keep seeing more of it. He wanted to make a feature film, and obviously finding the money, it's a big sort of animation, sorry, the thumbnail's really dark, but it's a big VFX kind of animation thing. And finding the money is hard. This was funded by the Irish Film Board, but he put the teaser out and was really careful about how he launched it. And if you look, it's tiny, tiny, you can't see it, but he's really good at, like, follow me on Twitter, here's my website, just helping the people who like his work keep in touch with him. And when he launched this, it got a decent enough amount of attention that it sort of hit the internet with a big bang. And shortly afterwards, he was approached, I'm sure by lots of people, but the film has been picked up for development by the team behind, the team involves people from the X-Men and people from District 9, Neil Blomkamp, if you know him. So that's really exciting, and just one of those things that if you play it right, the internet can deliver great things. This is a similar story. This is a short documentary called Overview that we had a few years ago. And it's a documentary about the overview effect, where he interviewed astronauts about what it's like when you go up to the moon or into space and you turn around and look back at the Earth as a tiny blue marble hanging in this big black sky and this tiny, thin, fragile-looking sort of atmosphere layer that we have protecting us. And it's a really profound thing for everyone who's been there. And it's a really engaging documentary, and it did so well. I think they always hoped that they would make a longer version, but it did so well that it opened all the doors for them, and they made Planetary, which played, I think it premiered at South by Southwest, it played at Hot Docs and various other festivals, and it's on Vimeo On Demand. We partnered with them for the launch, another one worth checking out. So I mean, there's lots of reasons to make short films. I think short films as just something fun to make, you know, something to explore and cut your teeth and work with collaborators and you know, figure out what you want to do. Of course, you know, get your work, your name out there in the industry, but also in a very real way. There's lots of people who are using the internet in particular to sort of make their project and be strategic about it and figure out how what you're doing now and what you're releasing today will impact what you're doing and what you're working on tomorrow. So the thing that made all of these films go so viral or be so successful is that people wanted to share them. It's not really about what works online, it's what makes people want to share something. And for any project that you're launching on the internet, you just have to think about like who's going to care about your project, who's going to be into it enough to want to share it with their networks, their friends. And obviously, the first place to start is your friends and family, your cast and crew, everybody who's been involved in your film. Because we have a thing on Vimeo called the Discover feed. If you log in, you'll see your feed, which is everything from people that you follow, whether it's things that they've uploaded or things that they've liked. And you can click across to the Discover feed, which is things that are sort of trending on Vimeo, anything that's had more than 30 likes in the last 24 hours. So it's not that many likes to get to end up on this Discover feed. And that's where, you know, we spend a lot of time looking at Discover for stuff to feature. Lots of other curators, people who curate external channels, also spend a lot of time hanging out on Discover. And it's another way to sort of get that ball rolling, get the audience snowball rolling and pick up more people. So when you're launching your film online, you can't just kind of, I mean, you can, but it's not going to go so well. If you just stick your film, like I've done my festival run or I've finished the film, I'm just going to put it up on the internet and hope for the best. Like you can do that, and sometimes it will take off, but you're stacking the odds against you. I think if you can be strategic about your launch and make sure that as soon as it's up and it's public, send it to everybody you can think of, post it on all your social networks, but get people to log in and like it, because it doesn't take very many people to get to that 30 likes that will help you take off. And also, whatever your film's about, there are people out there on the internet who are into that. So you just have to think about, you know, who's the audience for this film and how can I get their attention? So maybe it's, you know, you're making a documentary about food or some aspect of the food industry. There's tons and tons of influential food bloggers or, you know, food Facebook groups or people who are into sharing that kind of stuff. Get in touch with them and maybe give them an advance, you know, private link so that they can see it before you go live and be behind you when you actually pull the trigger. And similarly, you know, if your film's about, I don't know, if it's a horror film, you can maybe think about timing it around Halloween when people are going to be into that thing and people are going to be looking for that kind of content. So just, you know, a little bit of extra thought and homework can really help your film take off when you launch. And this is some of the kind of basic housekeeping, just if anyone's interested in doing stuff. This is a really simple sort of page one stuff, but so many people overlook it and it's really, really worth considering. Again, this is quite small, but strong thumbnails, the image that represents your video when people embed it anywhere, are so important. And although the Revenant that I showed you has a really dark one, you know, it's not quite so dark when you see it on screen. But if you look at, this is the chickening up there in the very top corner, which is a short that played at Sundance this year. It's mental. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to check it out. It's like a remix of The Shining. But they've done a really, you know, it's a really great thumbnail. They've got their festival laurels. You know, if you have a laurel from a festival, stick it on the thumbnail. It doesn't hurt, and it helps validate the film, because when people are scrolling through even the Vimeo feed, let alone Facebook or some other, you know, website, you're competing with everything on there, you know, a post from their friend or something that's, I don't know, jumping out that's something that they were just, you know, an event that they were at the other day. If you can make your thumbnail as strong as possible, you've got a much greater chance of them stopping as they scroll down that page and clicking on your film. So it's a great thumbnail. And they also, again, you can't see it, but you get a bit of space underneath the film. We call it the description, where you can write about what your film is and write a line or two that kind of sells the film to the audience. And loads of people overlook this, and people put their credits, like a list of credits at the very top, which is very noble. But when people share your video or add it to their channels, you only get to see the first, I don't know what the word count is, but it's like the first line. So you lose that spot and the opportunity to really sort of sell your film with a log line or a press quote. If you've got an amazing press quote from someone, even if it's, you know, we've seen people like have little quotes from their mum, and it's like, okay, it's not like the New York Times or the Guardian or anything, but it's really funny and it makes you stop and it makes you pay attention. Then use that space carefully. And on Vimeo we have, I'm not saying you shouldn't put the credits in the description, it's all cool if you do, but also we have a credits function, which is a really sneaky way to help find more people, more eyeballs for your film. Because if you work with a DP, for example, who has a following on Vimeo of his own, and you tag him in the credits, when you upload your film, everybody who follows him will see it in their feed. So you can tag all your crew, you can tag your production company, who often have good followings, anyone you can think of who has a legitimate reason to be in there, get them involved. Also, we suggest that you launch early in the week because, again, if you want people to pick your film up, it's the kind of thing where if you launch on a Friday, number one, nobody's really in front of their computers on the weekend, or not as many people as you need or you would like. And also, by Monday or Tuesday, when your film is picking up speed, any blogs or sites who are thinking about featuring it, they look at it and it's like, oh, it's from last week. It's not quite as timely and topical as it might be if it was from today or yesterday. So launch early in the week and get in touch with the key influencers. Like, think about who might be able to help you spread this film. Whether it's us, you know, lots of people email us or message us and say, here's my new film, I want to launch it soon, can you check it out? If you're interested in staff picks or staff picking it, like, let's coordinate that launch. Or, you know, there's tons of other sites. There's Short of the Week, and there's tons of animation platforms, and like I said earlier, those are people who are maybe not film industry but relevant to whatever your subject is. And Daniel's made this film, Dog Boarding. You can't really tell, but he's actually like skateboarding on that dog. They made this several years ago now. Daniel's is a directing duo. They're two guys, both called Daniel, and they've been staff picked several times. I think they have like 10 staff picks over the years. They made a lot of really funny, sort of weird short films and lots of brilliant music videos. We've been watching them for a while, like inevitably they're going to make a feature film and it's going to be amazing. And they sort of built this community and this following around themselves, and their careers are just, you know, the music videos they've been making have been getting bigger and bigger. And their debut feature premiered at Sundance this year, and they actually won the Best Director award. So we're super, super excited about them. Celia Rolson-Hall's another example. She's an amazing filmmaker who has cut her teeth making shorts and sharing them online. And she really said, you know, for having that online audience, every time she made a film and more people liked it, it really gave her confidence. Because sometimes you sit in the edit suite and you're so close to something that you can't tell if it's good anymore. And you launch it online, and, you know, all the filmmakers I know, they're always like, oh, they're never really happy with anything. Nothing's ever really finished. You just kind of run out of time. But if you launch it online and you get this amazing reaction from people who tell you that they love your work, it's really good for your confidence, and it really helps you sort of get the next thing out there. And Celia said that that's true, and she just had her first feature premiere at Venice last year. And Orlando, who's a documentary maker, he also said the same thing. He said the same thing about that kind of tunnel vision or snow blindness you get when you're finishing something. He made this film, Skateistan, several years ago, I think 2010, and it's an amazing short doc about a skateboarding charity in Afghanistan that helps children who've been, you know, their lives have been devastated, learn to skateboard just to give them something fun in their lives. And it's a wonderful film. And he's gone on and on to make, he was making little short docs for a while. And then he went to the Congo a few years ago just to see if he could film some gorillas. He wanted to make a film about the gorillas in the jungle. And he went to Virunga National Park to do so. And when he got there, he realised that there was a much bigger story going on. And he ended up staying much longer than the 2 weeks he planned. And the film he made there was a feature film that was nominated for an Oscar last year. And if you haven't seen it, it's called Virunga, and it's really, really amazing. So please check that out. And Danny Sangra is another one. He's made, I think he's had 8 staff picks, comedy shorts, really, really low budget and very simple, but brilliant. And his first feature is coming out. I just saw a screening of it, a private screening recently, and it's called Gold Bricks in Bloom. And I think it's going to be coming out at some point this year. So again, I could talk about short film and why it's important for much, much longer than 25 minutes. And actually, I don't have a clock, so I don't know if I'm over, but thank you so much. If you want to see anything, I'm very reachable.
That's great, Jordan. Thank you very much. Yeah. We've got time for some questions, actually.
Cool.
If anyone has a question they'd like to ask about Vimeo. No? Well, while you're thinking, I'll ask a question. The previous session was about diversity, and I'm curious to know, do you have a handle on the kind of mix of ages and types of filmmakers and ethnicities that are active on Vimeo?
Yeah, I don't have any real solid numbers, but it's something that we're talking about a lot at the moment because of this Share the Screen initiative that we've got going on. And Share the Screen at the moment is all about female filmmakers, and that's something that we're sort of targeting. We said that we'll fund 5 projects from women this year, which, given that last year we only funded 4 projects total, it's not like we're funding 5 from women and like 100 from men or anything. We have looked at it, and since we've been talking about it more this year, I would love us to do a real dig in and look at the numbers. But if you look at staff picks, for example, I think it's nowhere near as bad as it is in Hollywood. We see, and this is part of the reason that we wanted to do Share the Screen, we see lots of women. We have staff picks from all over the world, although we sort of tend to favour work that's in English or has English subtitles. And Vimeo is, it skews America and English generally, so, English language generally. So, we've just translated the site into Japanese and French and German and lots of languages around the world, and we're sort of doing more of an international push now. But I do think, and I will have to do the research and look this up, I do think we are generally better than the sort of upper end of the industry, just because there aren't any gatekeepers. Anyone can make a short, pick up a camera and cut it and upload it to the internet. And that's what's so brilliant and so exciting, I think, about the internet. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. And we see all these projects like The Outs, which is the LGBTQ drama, which, they launched it, and it was just a sort of personal thing that they made with no great, I'm sure they had ambition, but it wasn't like a really sort of clearly targeted thing. And people responded really well because, as they said in the previous panel, that's an audience that isn't traditionally served very well by the traditional media. So, I think the internet's this amazingly fertile space where things like this can take off. I think we aren't as bad as the rest of the sort of higher ends of the industry, but now we're just trying to work on helping those guys make that transition, yeah.
Any questions? Yep.
Just made a film in Indonesia. Just made a short film in Indonesia, and people there can't watch it because Vimeo's banned in Indonesia. I just wondered if that applies to any other countries.
I don't know. I think the Indonesia thing is quite recent, and I don't stay on top of all the latest developments everywhere around the world because these things happen every now and then. I think China we have issues with, but that's like almost any video sharing site and lots of social platforms. But I think Turkey had an issue with us for a while, but then they flipped the switch back again. So I don't know the latest on Indonesia. Sorry, but. I guess stay in touch with our blog. We keep people up to date, or reach out to the support team and they'll be able to tell you what's going on.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I've got another question to ask you. At Sundance this year, we saw incredible activity amongst the big platforms, putting up massive sums of money for some of the features, and obviously there are different views on what that does to the ecology of the film market. Do you think through the paid aspect of Vimeo, the Vimeo On Demand aspect of it, is Vimeo going to travel in that direction in terms of getting into that level of, content acquisition and content development?
Well, we do have an acquisition team who, work to bring films to the platform, and we do have a development team which works to sort of make the originals. I don't think we're quite in the same bracket as, Netflix and Amazon throwing around their sort of, multi-million checks, but also what I've heard people talking about as a result of that is, as much as Sundance, they had a lot of big checkbooks around, a lot of the big films actually went with more traditional distributors anyway, because if you sell your film to Netflix or Amazon, and sure, I know that Orlando with Virunga, he did that, and it made that millions of people saw the film, and it's been great. But you sign the film away, whereas what we do, filmmakers have their film on Vimeo, and we might well, be involved in sort of acquiring the film and bringing it to the site, but the filmmaker still owns the film. And once we recoup our money, if there has been money involved, it's your film and you can do what you want with it. So, where people turn down the big checks because they don't want to sell the film, and if it's going to be a huge film and there's going to be a massive box office kind of upside, then you want to be involved in that rather than, signing the check or signing the deal too early. So we are sort of in it, but we're not in the same ballpark as those guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? Nope. Okay, well, thank you very much, Jordan, for that. Thanks for coming along.